me a little bit about the essence of your character and how you see him developing into the series.
The essence of Dorian is, at the beginning, he represents the goodness of humanity. He represents those glimpses of humanity that make us all say, it's good to be alive. Oftentimes, I think as humans, we don't appreciate the small things. And someone like Dorian, or a character like Dorian, is there to remind us of that. He definitely reminds Carl's character of John Kinnick's of, just how good life is. No matter, even if you think life isn't as great as you might want it to be, there's a lot to be thankful for, because there's others out there who don't have it, and Dorian is one. And I see his evolution. I like to call it a slow burn. I think when the audience first meet Dorian, they'll see a lot of, they'll see his robotic nature for sure, or his synthetic nature. And, but as the course of the series, as it progresses, he'll become that guy who, he's almost like a tourist. Like a tourist, like his philosophy is when in Rome, so he's gonna do what the humans do, and so, if he sees people, he sees somebody with, an MP3 player, he might want to wear one. You know what I mean? It's just the little things that he craves that really drive his humanity.
I love that. And you were saying as the season progresses, you want him to become more human.
Yes.
Now, are these part of the discussions that you've had with the show creators, with Joel and JJ? And what were some of the early discussions about what your character would be and represent?
Well, the early discussions were amazing, because I was told he was bulletproof. I just found out today that he can be shot, and that was scary. So I kind of got suckered into the part. Actually, I thought I was, like Superman, and now I'm not. When I spoke to Joel about this character, we both agreed that we wanted him to grow. We wanted him to embrace every day, and embrace something new, and find, again, the humanity in all of us. So as the series progresses, he will slowly but surely have these little moments where, kind of like a kid, he's just going to kind of learn something about the culture at this, in this futuristic time that is just fascinating, and he appreciates it so much, and hopefully that'll make the audience appreciate it as well. The premise of the show, in my opinion, and I think different people have different interpretations of what it will be, and ultimately, after the first couple episodes, we'll really kind of find our groove about what it is. But I think, as of right now, it is a show. It's a show about.
Okay, so if we could just pick up again, you're talking about your character and humanity, and if you could wrap that up again, would be great. Really, just tell us about your character and his connection with humanity.
Yeah, I think Dorian is the kind of character that reminds us all about what's special about humanity. And, he has this drive to really kind of embrace all that is human. He wants to feel what it's like to do certain things that we take for granted every day. And that's what's kind of special about playing this guy, because I've never played someone who appreciates life like Dorian does. He appreciates life. He's been given a second chance, and he's gonna make the most out of this second opportunity.
Can you set the premise of the show for me again? I know we started to earlier, but please tell me what the show is about and how it works in the series.
I think this show is about. It's a cop show, and I definitely think it's about friendship, brotherhood. Obviously, we all know that law enforcement is a brotherhood. That includes women, and so it's about that brotherhood. It's about trying to stop those people who are ruining society, and at the same time learning as much as we possibly can about life itself.
And what drew you to the project? What drew you to the role?
What drew me to the role of Dorian was the idea that he was synthetic, and what that entails in terms of acting, in terms of preparation. The challenge for me was to avoid a lot of the cliches that have been done before. The challenge was also what happens. Like, I've never played a character that couldn't fall in love. So is that something that he can do? Is that something that he may grow to understand? I mean, his hard drive, his whole CPU, if you will, is based on a program called Synthetic Soul. So he has a soul. It's just, what does that mean in the sense of a synthetic, or in the sense of a droid in the future, and where does that go? So to me, the possibilities for this character are like nothing I've ever played before. So as an actor, you always find that intriguing. It's a cop, but it's not a, it's not a human cop. It's a cop that he's a cop that craves to be human.
And this is a J.J. Abrams project, which
is
very exciting.
Oh man, okay. All right, here we go.
Is that something that appealed to you? Have you worked with J.J. before?
No, I've never worked with J.J. before. I met him during the process of getting this job, and seemed like a really nice guy. But let's be honest, this is J.J. Abrams. He's done a lot of successful television and film. I was a huge fan of the Star Trek reboot. So, it's just working with great minds is something you always try to do as an actor as much as possible, because that's how you're going to get your best work out there.
What is it that will appeal to an international audience? We know that the show is going to be put on a domestic network, but eventually it'll grow legs and it will be distributed internationally. What will the appeal be?
I think ultimately the appeal for the international audience will be the humanity. I think we're all separated by geography, but ultimately crime exists in every country, and in the future, as we become more and more of a global society, it's not, the crime is just, the crimes of the future will be crimes that are relatable or tangible to everyone from every country. And ultimately, the humanity of these two particular cops is going to stand out and resonate, in my opinion, no matter what country you're in. Because despite the geographic differences, this is the human race.
Now, the show is set in 2048, is that right? It's 2048?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So what's happening in 2048? What's different? What's intriguing and cool about this particular time? And is it still sort of grounded in reality? Is it believable that this is what might actually be happening in this time?
According to our fearless leader and creator, Mr. Joel Wyman, this show will be very accurate as to how things could possibly be in 2048, or in the next 30 years, let's just say. Ultimately, what's going to make this show, I think, even more compelling is the crimes. In this particular pilot episode, we're dealing with an organ, we're dealing with organ theft. So we're beyond cyber theft. We've already gone through that. You know what I mean? We're beyond hacking and stuff like that. We're now into a black market where, you know, organs are being sold to the highest bidder, and I'm talking about massive amounts of organs. So it's actually quite intriguing, and you know, the technology that's on this show, obviously, my character of Dorian is a synthetic human being, so that's the technology that we're working with as well. It's just going to pretty much surpass most that's out there right now.
Now, the show also has a lot of special effects, visual effects, action. Can you speak a little bit to those particular elements and how they'll all come together and make the series work?
The show definitely has a lot of special effects, a lot of visual effects. Obviously, we're trying to create a world that is 30, 40 years in the future. And, you know, we're working with such a strong crew that the things that they're able to do and put together so quickly, it's absolutely fascinating to see. I've never seen some of the equipment that I've seen on this particular show, and it's fascinating, from the car that we're in to the hovercrafts that fly around to some of the capabilities that Dorian has as a synthetic. You know, even this precinct that we're in, it feels realistic, but yet not current.
Tell me a little bit about the director, Brad, and what his directorial take is on this and his directing style.
Brad is he's very passionate about this project, and what's nice about working with him is you come in and he knows exactly what he's trying to do, and he's always able to articulate that very clearly to us as actors. And you know, I think what he's bringing is a grittiness that some would probably avoid. I think when you think futuristic, you think shiny, bright, you know, very glossy. And what Brad, of course, with his independent film background, has brought a certain grittiness to this project that I've enjoyed, and I think it's actually quite helpful to telling the story, a la a Blade Runner.
Now, tell me a little bit about how you're playing part human, sort of part synthetic. Is there anything in the mechanics of it, the way you move, the body language, the physicality of it?
Mm-hmm. My portrayal of Dorian is, you know, as a synthetic, is, as I said earlier, it's a slow burn. I think in this particular episode, he is reborn, if you will. He's booted up, you know. And I remember talking to Joel about that when we first met about the project, and I was like, I hope Dorian's more like a Mac than a PC, you know, because I was PC for the longest time, and finally I got to the point where I was convinced to try a Mac, and what convinced me on a Mac was it took all of 10 seconds to boot up, whereby a PC, you know, you have to scan the viruses and McAfee and all that stuff, and it just takes forever. You know, so I like the idea that, you know, that this guy, you know, he gets booted up and he's so fast and so quick, and he's just able to kind of jump right back into a case that he knows nothing about. But he was, as he says, as Dorian says in the project, he was made to do this. He was designed to be a cop. So he's going to do it with all the vigor and passion that that a young, hungry cop would have, and I think that's going to be his driving force. And along the way, like I said, I really hope to develop more human characteristics. I just didn't want to make him very, very human at first, just because I just want to have somewhere to go with it.
Now, tell me about the relationship between your character and John.
The relationship between John and Dorian is a bit frosty. It's a bit frosty at first. I think we're both bringing baggage to the relationship. And as anyone who's been in a relationship, and brought baggage to that relationship, all of us here, can attest to it's not helpful at first. It can create tension between two people, and until you get to know each other better, it can really create somewhat of a division. I don't think Dorian and John see eye to eye for a while, and what I think is great about this particular pilot is at the end, we're not bosom buddies. We're not Riggs and Murtaugh. We're not, we're not going to start going to each other's house for dinner. We have a long way to go, but we learn something about each other by working together, and hopefully we can continue to develop that relationship, good or bad, throughout the first season. My hope is that as the series progresses, Dorian grows. He becomes more human with every episode. And hopefully audiences will find that intriguing.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
Talk about your character. Tell me a little bit about your character.
I play Dorian, and Dorian is a synthetic, a very human-like synthetic. He is, in my opinion, one of the more charming characters I've played. He's definitely, he's very earnest, and he seeks the humanity of life. He really seeks for that, that essence of humanity. He really craves that.
Now, explain to me what is a synthetic, and what makes your character especially unique?
Well, what makes a character synthetic is he's a droid. He's not human. So despite the human facade and the skin and everything, he's parts. He's he's got a hard drive and everything like that. And ultimately, he's just as human as he is, he still can't. He's in a constant search to find more, and as hard as he tries, it's ultimately unattainable for him.